what I'm talking about is it's called an all-in auction mechanism. I'll explain the all-in part in a moment. That auction, the paper which has been published you can go to agronomics.com, which is the blog. After you spend an hour or two going through the blog and enjoying all the reading there, you can go down the right sidebar and there's a little permalink that says all-in auctions. You go there, you click on it, you'll get to the paper eventually, so you can download the paper if you are interested in reading the long academic version of this. And if you want to use this mechanism to reallocate water anywhere in Oklahoma or the world, please contact me because I'd be very eager to help you. My book is called The End of Abundance because there was a lot of water in the past, and we set up institutions to allocate that water that were based on abundance. Take as much as you want. And then what happened is there was a lot of demand that came with the limited supply. So demand increased to the point where we had water scarcity. That is why I called the book The End of Abundance, because with water scarcity you have to change the way you manage water. You can't just take as much as you want, because either you impact your neighbors, you impact the environment, or you impact your future. Okay? So this mechanism that I'm going to talk about today is a way of reallocating water rights among people who have water rights to make it more efficient in the strict economic sense, in the sense that you might have, and the demonstration here, you should think in your mind, you're a bunch of farmers, you all know each other, you all share distribution infrastructure, and these guys over here have got water rights. Everybody has equal water rights in a sense. And I'll get to the demonstration in a second. And these guys are really not really good at working, and you all over here are good at working, and you want to buy water from them. But they're not exactly sure about how much to sell it to you, and they just think it should be worth a lot. You think it should be worth not very much because they suck as farmers, right? So what we want to do is we want to have a mechanism that, number one, allows a reallocation. Number two, which goes to higher uses, more efficient uses. Number two, does protect property rights in the sense that they don't have to sell if they don't want to, right? But on the other hand, we want to make sure they participate. So it's all of the rights are put into the auction, and then people who are bidding high will end up with the water, and if you really don't want to sell your rights, you can bid high and buy your own water back at no cost to yourself, right? And it sounds kind of stupid because you're taking money out of one pocket and putting it in the other, but I'll tell you, it's a big problem with water markets because lots of people have held on to water rights for multiple generations. They literally were born on a farm that had water rights to it. And selling water is a crazy idea, but selling a cow is not. So what we're talking about is actually kind of selling cows. And if you don't want to sell your cow, you don't have to, and this mechanism helps you do that. So that's more or less the context. An important factor here is if there is a limited amount of water, and all of you say used to get 100% allocations of water, and now you're down to 80%, you might want to reshuffle it among yourselves. Or there's 100% allocation, but the government comes along and says, I'm sorry, this river is dead because of you, we need to take some water back, 20% disappears, now you need to reallocate among yourselves. Okay? That's the kind of context that is important here. Mike, can I get you on here? What I'm going to do here is I got two hats, and you're going to take one scrap out of each of these hats. The first one is going to be the one that Mike has, one scrap per team, and I'll tell you what these are as soon as I pass them out. So just reach in there and grab one. Okay, everybody, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to do the hardest part, which is figuring out what all these pieces of paper are. The first thing you need is that accounting paper in front of you. What you should do is write your team number on the upper right corner, and on the little pieces of paper, the smallest one I gave you, it has a little number in the middle and a number in the upper right. The upper right is your team number. Write that on your accounting paper. That's going to matter a lot for accounting. All right? Got your team number. The reason you have a teammate is because your teammate's going to make sure you don't make a mistake. All right, good. And on the middle of that piece of paper, it says a number between 0 and 4. You should write that number as your endowment.
Oh, that's right.
That's all right.
They
Good.
told me that. I forgot.
All righty, good. All right, so your endowment, for those of you with The vocabulary skills, the endowment is how much water you have in terms of your rights, okay? Those are your rights based on whatever it is, the history or how tall you are or where you're born or whatever. Okay. Now what I want, and then we have the other piece of paper, which is going to have a letter in the upper right, A, B, or C. Find that piece of paper, A, B, or C, okay? And what that shows essentially is the value of irrigation of a plot of land on your farm, okay? So right now I'm holding on a B, and I've got an 8, 5, 3, and 2. I've got 4 plots of land. So if you're an A or a C, you've got a different number of plots. I am, as a B, I have 4 plots of land. Let's make it like this. 8, 5, 3, 2. If I have 1 unit of water, which plot of land should I irrigate? The 8, right? Because this will produce, let's call it $8 of value, okay? If I don't irrigate it, any plot, it's worth 1. So if I get no water, I just got some grass, okay? And it's worth $1 each. If I can irrigate, if I have 2 units of water, which plot should I irrigate? 5. Whoever said 3 is wrong. You want to make money, okay? 3 is not strawberries, 5 is strawberries, okay? So you get the idea. If you have 4 units of water, how many do you irrigate? 4. Okay, great. And you get all this summed together as a value. If you have 5 units of water, what do you got? Too much water, right? Okay, so that's a different auction. We're not doing that today. So what I want you to do now is to go through the first accounting question, which is to write on your sheet on number 1 line, it says profit with unlimited water. Profit with unlimited water is going to be the sum total of all of those numbers on that little plot category added up. There's a little cheat sheet next to you who can't add on that line. Okay, now you should have figured that out. If you don't have, you should have the number either 16, 18, or 26. Hopefully you have one of those 3 numbers written down. How many people here are A's? Raise your hand. No, 1 per team, please. Teamwork. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. How many of you are B's? B's, B's, B's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's all. How many of you are C's? If you haven't raised your hand yet, you're making a mistake, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Has anybody not raised their hand? Please don't screw up my calculations. How many here are A's? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oops. All right, get with the program. B's. How many B's? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Still C's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Okay, let's stop it there. So what I can tell you is I'm going to do this while you're Mickey Mousing with the next thing, but the total production of all of your farms right now with unlimited water is going to be the sum total of all these numbers, right? Okay. That's going to be the value of your agricultural output if you want. But what happens if we have a water shortage? Line 2. So what I want you to do is look at your endowment, which is going to be between 0 and 4, that's written in your upper right-hand side, and I want you to figure out how much value you're going to produce given that you now have limited water on your farm. This is your endowment, and you can farm. So go ahead and figure out those numbers on your each team by team.
The idea of the rest of the land makes 1, is that for each plot?
Yes, so this is important. If you are not irrigating, you add 1 for each unirrigated plot. Okay, this is unfortunately, it should be 0 to make it easy for addition, but agricultural realism requires that we do keep it at 1, right? Land is not worth 0, it's worth 1. So that's why we're doing that, because farmers just don't like having nothing. All right, what I need you to do, I'm going to go by team. I'm going to point at you. I want you to tell me the value of your output, okay? So, you guys.
The minimum one?
The one that you have with your endowment.
15.
15. 15. 16.
With my endowment? 17.
What you just calculated. 17. 15.
Sorry.
3. Okay, what was the adjustment?
10, not 16.
Sorry.
Minus 6.
Minus 6.
I was doing the top number.
That's all right. It's all right. We're all like the IRS here. We don't know what we're doing. 18. 17. 20.
13.
13. 10. 20. 20. 11. Team. 15. 3. 15. 16. 3. Okay. 5. Okay, great. Did you get all those?
I think so. I got 353. They're coming in pretty fast.
That's all right. Okay.
Heard them all.
Now what we'll notice here is that we are having less output, right? Because with unlimited water, we get $392 of output, 392 million, whatever you want. Now we have 353 because there is a scarcity, right? So the thing is that some of you have got 3 and some of you have got 20, and some of you might have maxed out in the sense that you have extra water in a sense. And in the best of all worlds, the people who want water would be able to buy water from the people who want to sell water. And the first problem is, imagine you have to find each other in this room, right? It would be a little bit noisy, and you would run around, and then you'd have to, oh, do you have extra water? How much do you want to sell it for? 6? Not too much. How about you? Oh, 6 is a good price. Hold on. And you stay there. Don't talk to that guy. So this would be a mess, okay? In a small scale agricultural community, a lot of deals could be made over a cup of coffee on the table, right? But you never know if your neighbor down the road really needs that water more. So what we want to do is we want to put it out there in terms of an auction and have people say, look, I don't care who I'm buying water from, I will offer this much money for the water, okay? Or I have extra water, I'll sell my water. That's kind of the idea. And the two things that I wrote down here that I just erased is that we have 2 problems with reallocating water. One of them is what I call the participation effect, which is you wake up in the morning, there's an auction at 8:30, and you're like, I really don't even care. I got plenty of water. I'm just going to sleep in. My water's valuable anyway. So the people who are in the room here waiting to buy the water don't even get the water, even though surplus guy is sitting there, sleeping in. And like, he can't really be bothered, let's say, okay? The other one is that when surplus guy does show up and says, oh, you want my water? My granddaddy's water? Well, you're going to have to pay a lot because this is very valuable water. Now, of course, on the other side of the coin, you'd be like, oh, I want to buy your water, but it's not worth that much to me because I need to grow tomatoes or whatever. This endowment effect is very, very well understood. Every cup of coffee that you brought in, this cup of coffee here and that cup of coffee there, or the cup, I should say, if I asked you guys to swap, you'd be like, whoa, no, even if it was clean, right, washed and everything. You would say, I like this cup, right? I've lived with this cup for a while. Even if you actually, this is true, behavioral, you go into the room, you hand out blank OSU mugs to half the room, and you ask the other half of the room to buy it. The people in the first half who just randomly got the mugs are like, no, I'm not going to sell you this mug, it's very valuable to me. And you flip it over and give them the mugs to these guys, they're like, oh, I'm not going to sell you that mug. So people have this crazy, I'm holding it, it's so valuable to me, that totally goes away when they're not holding it. So what I'm saying now is what we're going to do is we're going to take all your water rights, put it all in the auction, so now you essentially have 0 water, and I want you to bid as if you are going to buy your first unit of water, your second unit of water, and so on. Okay? So I'm going to get the endowment here in a second, more addition. No, yeah, we need to do the addition. So I'm going to get the endowment here in a second, and then we're going to reallocate that water given that you actually have none, 0, right? So your output is going to be, your production is going to be worth the minimum, one unit per thing. So what I want to do is I want to get the endowments because I didn't record that. What's your endowment? 2. 3. 1. 3. 1. 0. 4, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, 4, 0, 1, 2, 2, 4, 0, 0, 0. Okay. 58. Okay, so we know full stop. We know already for sure that people who have 0 endowment, who are cursed with a granddaddy that did not say, this is mine, those people are going to want to buy some water, probably from people who have more water. We know that for a fact. Let me ask you, I'm just going to make this perfectly clear because I do not want to get some crazy bidding behavior here. Because people say, well, if I irrigate my first plot, it's worth 8, so I'll bid 10. Don't do that, please. Okay? If it's worth 2, don't bid 7, right? If I'm coming to buy your car and it's worth $2,000, I'm not going to pay you $7,000, right? So if you're going to bid, and the bidding strategy will be something you discuss in your group, please bid something that sounds normal in the real world. Okay, so what I want you to do now, given that you have 0 water on your little blank piece of paper, I want you to write your team number in the upper right side, and I want you to write a couple bids for water. You can write 2 or 3 bids for water. That's where your team, you guys are talking about it right now. Go ahead, go. Remember, you do not have any water right now. If your endowment is 4, you have 0, okay? So you have to bid if you want water. Your water is now for sale in the middle of the room here in the pool. Okay, now one thing I regretted, I omitted from the discussion, which is actually extremely relevant, which is, do you pay what you bid or do you pay some different price? And the all-in auction actually is you pay some different price, and that is you pay the highest losing bid. What does that mean? In auction theory, you have what's called a second price auction. Has anybody been on eBay before? Buying something on eBay, you bid. Did you win, by the way? Right? Or did someone come and get it at the last second? Right? Okay, that last second bidding is called sniping. There's actually software that will snipe on an auction and take that thing away from you. Very unfair. But the way that eBay works is that you have, or a second price auction works, is if you have a bid of 32 and someone else comes in and bids 35, then they don't pay 35, they pay 32.1 or something like that. They pay basically the second price. If the second highest bid was 25, they'd bid 25.1, something like that. Does that make sense? So you don't pay as you bid. The reason is you pay what is your competition. Just you beat your competition by a little bit. That is what's called incentive compatible as far as economics is concerned, because then you don't sit there and get all gamey about, oh, if I bid 35, I don't want to pay 35, so I'll bid 34, even though it's really worth 35 to me. And then someone comes along and bids 35, and then you lose it, right? So what this does is it says, what we're going to do is we're going to sell the item to the person who bids the most, but we're going to sell it to them at a price which is just beating their competition by a little bit. Now in this auction we have many bids, so this is an N price auction. In fact, we have 58 units for sale. So we have probably more than 58 bids here. Thanks God that Mike's is sorting them out. And what is the price going to be determined by? If I rank those bids from highest to lowest, which bid is going to determine the price in this auction? No. Not second highest. There's 58 units. No, not 58th bid. The highest losing bid, 59th bid. Okay. So what I'm going to do, or using these piles is here, I'm going to get a pile of 8s, I'm going to get a pile of 22s, I don't care, la 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 la. And once we hit 58 bids, the 59th bid is going to be the actual auction price. All right? That is going to be the price that everybody's going to talk about as the price of water. It shouldn't really change your strategy, but it might change your strategy. And the good news is you will get a chance to update your bids. Because right now we're going to figure out who's winning units. You got some big piles there, I see. But we're going to use $1.50. So the price is $1.50. Get your accounting sheet. Endowment. Oh, you know what? Don't get your accounting sheet yet. Sorry. Okay. What I want you to do is pay attention, because what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to call out your team number if you have a winning bid. Okay? You're going to need to count up your number of winning bids, because I'm going to have to trust you, because there's no way I can do all this reconciliation right now. So if I call out your team number, do a little Roman numeral, keep track of that as I go through it. You ready? Okay, team 23, 6, 6, 11, 29, 13, 11, 7, 23, 30, 27, 6, 1, 11, 3, 30, 8, 22, 23, 1, 3, 29, 18, 17, 16, 25, 19, 26, 3, 8, 12, 18, 14, 13, 10, 18, 1, 22, 26, 8, 27, 19, 29, 7, 14, 10, 12, 22, 13, 19, 26, 16, 20, 25, 17, 29, 14, 7. Those are the winning bids. Did you record your winning bid? Some people got it. If I said your team number, that means you had it one winning bid. If I said it twice, you had 2 winning bids. Okay. If I didn't get your bid, you lose. No. It's all right. Okay, did you get your number of winning bids? You all know what your winning bids are? Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow some people to submit more bids if they want to submit more bids because they don't feel like they've gotten the number of units they deserve. So if you want to submit another bid, get your piece of paper up and write it down a bid and give it to me. You have to bid higher than $1.50. In fact, I would suggest you bid more than $2 if you want to get up another unit. If any of your bids were 2, you might lose if someone puts in a bid of 3 right now. Okay, so the people who are not bidding, are number 1, happy with the number of units they have, and number 2, secure that no one's going to outbid them and take away their units. Is that correct?
How many total? Is there a lot of pieces? Can we look at
There's, oh, no, you don't even know. There's plenty of pieces in here. There's 75 new bids. You didn't even see that, did you? Okay, I know you're happy. That's all right. We're a no regrets auction. I'm going to call out a plus and minus version of things. So if I call out your team, that means you are up 1 unit compared to where you were, okay? Team 1, Team 18, Team 13, you're up 1 unit. Now, unfortunately, those higher bids are going to kick out some of the lower bids. So, Team 20, out. Team 17, 1 bid out. Team 16, 1 bid out. I think 16 put in a bid of $2. Is that right? Yeah? It just got kicked out again, so you didn't even get anything. And Team 12 out, 1 bid.
I think we did something wrong because we put another bid in for a plot that we won, just so we wouldn't lose that last one.
Uh-huh. Did you just get another plot, another bid of unit of water?
We bid a bid of 5 for a plot that already won, so it wouldn't get.
So now you have another unit of water. Congratulations. All right.
Sell that so you don't need it?
Not now, on the secondary market, on the coffee table market. All right, now, the thing is, now the price is $2. All right, did I say it was $2 before? Okay, so the auction price is $2. Now, for the sake of time, I'm going to stop the auction right now. What I want you to do is I want you to go through this counting column, what we have here. Did I throw that one out too? We got to do the accounting. And so what you're going to use here is the column on box A. Write down your endowment in units, which should be more or less copied from the upper right corner. Box A, you're going to write down your endowment in units. In box B, you're going to write the number of units bought, which is the number of successful bids you had. Okay, that number will be greater than, less than, or equal to the number of units of your endowment. Okay, on box C, we're going to do some advanced mathematics. Subtract B from A. That'll be either a positive number, a 0, or a negative number. In box D, you write down the final price of $2. Final price is $2. That is the highest rejected bid. Now the change in cash is the price times the number of units you either bought because you bought more than your endowment, or you sold because you bought less than your endowment, or you broke even, which is you bought your endowment back. All right? This is the complicated one. Change in cash, number E, or line E. Hopefully you all have that figured out. So you sold 2 units, or you bought 2 units?
Bought 2 units.
Endowment, bought, good. So then you are -4 in cash. That's good, perfect. Please listen up for a second. I'm just for the sake of an example here, I'm going to use these guys' sheet. These guys came in with 0. They bought 3 units. All right? So they had -3 units in terms of net. $2 is the price, so they pay $6. Okay? You should have something similar for your own situation.
This would be shown as a -6.
That's a -6. That's what they wrote there. Sorry, that's what they wrote, but that's what I should have said. Yeah, -$6. All right, now F, profit from land. Here we're back to the tricky one, okay? You only have as many units of water as you bought, not as your endowment, as you bought, which is B, and you want to get the value of the land or the number of plots that you were covering with water. So if it's not irrigated, it's worth 1. If it's irrigated, it's worth whatever is hopefully the highest value plots first. Okay, now team 25 up here has an important question. They said, now wait a second. We started with 4 units of water, and we bought 2 units of water, and then we did some farming, and we're making a profit from what? And I was like, well, you made a profit from selling water. Now, you didn't even know you sold the water, because in fact, all you did is buy water, right? All your water got put up here for sale. I had your water. I sold your water to someone else. You didn't even know it, right? You bought 2 units of water because you felt like it, for whatever reason. And then I delivered some cash to you for the water that you actually sold. All right? This is, in fact, the most important idea here. It's that you're selling water to someone you don't even know for a price that you don't even determine, but you get the money for it. All right? And they decided they wanted to sell some water for whatever reason. I don't even care. And they took the cash and they did a little farming, and they are what I call a net seller of water. A net seller of water. They did a little bit of farming, a little bit of water. Some people might have sold all their units of water. Some people are going to be net buyers. You start off with an endowment of 2 or whatever, or 0. There were some zeros. Who was a 0 and bought water? Y'all, you started with nothing, you bought some water, you're a net buyer. So you should have, I paid out cash, but I got profit from farming, right? And some of you are what you can call a neutral buyer or a wash buyer. You had an endowment and you bought the same number of units. How many people were in that category? All right, so you guys said one reason or another. You said, you know what, I can use that water, or I don't even want to do this auction thing. I'm just going to bid high, whatever. You know, you can bid 100 as far as this is concerned, right? So there's 3 types of you going to be in here: a net seller, a net buyer, or a wash participant, to whatever the language. I did something in the paper is a good word. I don't remember it. So, but then that's your position with respect to the market for water. Then you have a whole different operation called what's your farming, right? So if you apply water, you're going to get some irrigation profit. The plots that are not irrigated, they're going to be worth 1. And then you add your market participation change in cash plus your profits from farming. So that's what you should have done. Discuss in your group for a second, then I'll sum it up. How many of you were net buyers of water? You bought more units than you came in with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 buyers. That's impressive. How many of you were net sellers? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many of you were wash? You bought as much as you came in with endowment-wise. 1, 2, 3, 3. Okay. It's all right. Doesn't matter. All right. Now this is interesting that there are way more buyers than there are sellers. This could be because the sellers had 4 units. They only bought back 0 or 2 or whatever. And the people who were buying were going from 0 to 1. I don't really care, but there's going to be, it's the number of units that end up being equal here, not the number of people, right, or teams. So most important question, this is the key, how well you played the game. How many people came out better off with this auction than they were in line 2? Better off. Raise your hand if you're better off. If you, in a sense, you were happy that you participated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. How many of you did worse than what you had with no auction? You guys are one team. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll get to you in a second. 5. How many of you are indifferent, the same as where you were before? 1, 2, 3, 3. Okay. Now, the all-in auction mechanism is supposed to be a no regrets mechanism. No one is supposed to come into this auction, spend an hour, drink some coffee, and walk out the worse off. So, teams that did worse, any reasons why you did worse?
We should stop farming and needing water utilities. We have 8 lot and 4 allotments, so we should just sell them.
You should have been you should have sold more.
For a higher price.
Or a higher price. Or not bid as much in a way. You shouldn't have bid so much.
Bid more and drop at the lower value, so the minimum price that's being asked for.
Okay, so we should bid more to pick up the price. Except there's 58 bids. Where are you going to be in there in those bids? Oh,
It's not 4, but it's going to knock the bottom 4 out, raise the minimum bottom
That's a possibility in theory. I had a big argument with referees about that. And they're like, well, you can drive that price by bidding strategically. It's like there's 58 bids here. Imagine if there's 200 bids or 2,000 bids, right? Trying to move that price is imaginary, doesn't usually happen. But that's what you could have done, though, is you could have just not bid, and you would have taken the market price. What happened with you guys?
We were happy with the first session, but then we were afraid someone would outbid us, so we
You put in another bid, extra unit, right? So you bought the water for a price that was worth less than it was worth to you, right? In a sense, okay. Other team? Same thing. Okay. So, of course, what I did is I cut this off early because you could update your bids. Canceling bids is an okay thing if you're going to run this out. The other one is that in terms of an orientation towards this auction, now that you've done this in an hour, you could go out and do this, in a day. My idea would be you do this for a day with a group of farmers, right? You spend all this time in the world to make sure that everybody tries every mistake possible, because in the end, you don't need to make any mistakes, right? It's just like a miscalculation, especially with the updating bids. Yeah.
One thing that to us we would do different is I think we would bid the break even
Right.
on each plot.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, our last plot was 7, we would have bid 6, we bid 5.
Right.
$1 difference.
Right. But in fact, the strategy is to bid the exact value of your plot, right? That if I wanted to, sorry?
Why not $1 less? What's it?
Because it's a second price auction, okay? Or an nth price auction, right? So that is, in fact, if I was going to run this with a computer, the computer would do better than all of you, because the computer would just say, I bid my values, and it would sort it out. All the water would go to the plot sufficiently, and the price would be set at the lowest price. It turns out that the humans are the problem in this auction. That's all right. But the humans are the ones who decide to show up or not, right? The humans are the ones who vote. So in some ways, it has to be human compatible. And this is, and I don't have any problem with the mistakes you made, neither should you, because this is called learning, right? And if you were going to go out and do this in the field, I am sure that this would not be the first time. You do it probably 20 times before people say, okay, I'm ready to trust my water to this thing, right? But the first guy to auction a cow was probably just as nervous, especially the video auctions and all kinds of crazy stuff, So that's what we're talking about here. Any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so is there a proxy through this that we could have had to say whether society was better off by summing up how much profit was originally and then how much profit was after the auction? Is that a proxy for how good society might have been through this process? And whether it was
You guys are society. You guys are society.
No, but there's outside society.
There is outside society, but we're taking as given that the outside is there, because what we're doing is two things. We have a limited amount of water that is going to be reallocated. So why is it limited? We don't know. It could be a drought. It could be environmental flows. It could be the big city that y'all's decided to sell a bunch of water for $10 a unit to the city. Who's going to bid 10? Anyone? Anyone? No one's going to be willing to pay 10. You take those $10 bids from the city, and you stick it into your community center or whatever, the retirement plan. So at some point, you are going to arrive at a limited amount of water, and you want to now you want to reallocate that water amongst yourselves. And the profit that you get from farming is a profit to the farmer, but it represents a profit to society. Assuming, by the way, that agriculture is a good idea, I'm not going to get into ag policy, but assuming that that's a good idea, that's the society.
So it is a proxy for whether society is better off or not.
Yes.
Through the market.
What we're doing is we're maximizing the value of our limited resource. The limited resource in this case is not land, it's water. I'm not worried about machinery or labor or anything else.
But we may not have maximized the value because the market may not have been efficient.
It's better than it was.
We know that.
The no trading, so I put a question mark here. With unlimited water, the total would be 392. With the limited water and no trading, the total was 353. The all-in auction is supposed to get us closer towards the maximum. But you can never get to there because you don't have enough water anyway.
But you didn't add them up, so we don't know how close we got.
Yeah, and I didn't add it up, and we know that some people are saying, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that. But if I ran this again, or I reiterated those bids, at one point everybody would say I am either equal or better off. Equal or better off will put you into this greater than sign. And then that is where we want to go. Right? Now there could be a little fiddling called someone ended up with it who has a plot of 6 and someone else could have done it with a plot of 7. That is a possibility. That's a That's basically a bidding strategy problem that it would flush out after a little while. Yeah.
So are you illustrating that this is how water is allocated, or this is what you think we should be doing for our water allocation?
This is a normative statement of what we should be doing, and it is positive in that it will work. Because this is, as far as I'm concerned, realistic. I've talked to many, many, many people about this auction. There's nothing that won't work out in the field with this auction. I did do this with some farmers one time. There was an environmental water account. The environmental guy wanted to buy some water off the farmers, and the farmers, they figured out demand and supply. They had no idea, except they did know how much water they had, and they didn't know how much they wanted to buy. So they knew it in their head. But you put on the board, you draw these lines like, oh my God. And the craziest thing was they didn't even believe they would be buying water from each other. They thought the environmental account was going to buy a bunch of water. And then we went through that whole exercise, and I drove back down to the Bay Area where I was living at the time, and I emailed the woman who organized this. I said, so what happened with the farmers? Do they want to go forward on this all-in auction? She said, no, actually, they just prefer to bargain with me one person at a time. Because every guy thinks he's smarter than the next guy, right? So you can spend your whole life bargaining, right? We saw what happened in Congress with that. Or you get back to business. You run this auction, seriously, in an irrigation district, you could run this auction on one day of the year, you go back to business, right? It's a low overhead mechanism.
My only other question would be, when you go to real farming, you introduce the concept of risk or like a futures.
Right.
So my plots are valued at 10, 9, and 7,
Right.
but there could be locusts.
Right.
You know, so what do people do when they face that kind of risk or uncertainty about
They buy locust insurance, right? So that's not a water problem. That's a farming problem.
It's not a water problem, but I just imagine it would have a psychological effect on how much you'd be willing to pay in for water if you
Sure.
think it's going to be a bad year.
Sure. But if you're this 10, 9, and 8 guy, and you're sitting next to a guy who's got a 5, 5, 5 kind of plot, then you're going to say, well, if he gets the water, he can make 5, but if I get the water, I can make 9. And if the price of the water is 6, he's not going to buy it, I can buy it, right? So it's like any other risk now. And it's like any other market now. Should I buy that tractor, right? If the locusts show up, you can't even use it, or rent it. Can't even rent that. I did all those field clearing. I can't even use that because the locust ate all my field anyway. So you're talking about normal everyday shocks that those farmers are used to. This is called how much water do you want to get on your field as well. Yeah. Now, by the way, I recommend highly that any water reallocation, whether or not it's in an auction or any kind of trade or deal, be made on a wet water basis, in the sense that if you have the water, then you put it on the market. If you're selling futures and the water doesn't show up, you actually break the market, right? Because you can't deliver. So, or if a city is going to buy water, they say, we want to buy your water right permanently. And the biggest problem with that is that the projection of the future for the city and the projection for the future of the farmer, or vice versa, will be very different in many cases. And that means that the price difference is going to be very big, right? In terms of willingness to pay and willingness to buy. So that means the city will come in and offer something real low, and the farmer will want something really high, because they're both factoring in their risk. And that means that the price dispersion means a deal won't even happen. But if a city says, look, I'll buy your water this year, the farmer can say, this year, I can handle this year. I don't know about next year, but I can make a deal with you this year. And you make a deal, and the next year, you come up and say, do you want to make a deal again? How much did you learn, right? It's essentially the exact same thing as renting a house versus owning it. When you make a buy decision on a house, you're like 30-year mortgage, oh my God, do I like the neighbors, all kinds of stuff. But if you move into a place, you're renting, it's like, I don't care about the guys next door making a bunch of noise, I'm out of here, right? So that's why it's better to run these auctions more frequently and essentially less money involved and less risk involved than to do this great big, one-time sale for 100 years kind of water. Okay? And of course, the last thing is, not from me, but or not from you guys, but the last thing is, it's like, you can always have a secondary market. You guys said, oh God, we have a regret, right? You could sell a unit of water so-and-so down. Things like, I got a unit of water, anyone? All right.
Kind of more generalized, I think, of that question is, it seems the computer can get this thing right. You mentioned that we were the ones that screwed it up, and I think we will continue to screw it up because we're inherently greedy and we're inherently bad planners. Is there any mechanism by which the price of water could be set? I'm kind of thinking it through as I'm saying it, and probably the answer is no, because people will still be stupid. They'll buy water they shouldn't, or they'll fail to buy water.
If I set the water price administratively, I'll tell you, if I determine the best price, no one here is going to like it. That's a fact, right? So an exogenous price, a price that is set from outside, pleases nobody. An endogenous price, like if I'm the administrator of a pool of water and I come to you, I said, I'm going to sell you guys water for $2. You'd be like, oh my God, that's too high, that's too low, whatever. If I say, I don't know what the price is, I'll let you all determine it, then I'm not doing anything, right? You blame each other if you want to. And in that sense, it is much better from a group perspective.
But the other point is that an administrator, you're never truly going to know these profits on the farm.
Right.
Here they're given to us and we know what they are.
Right.
And we can do crop budgets and kind of guesstimate what they'd be, but we give people bids for the CRP all the time. We don't always know how many of them are going to take.
Right. No, if I threw away all those little plot pieces of paper, because I had real farmers in here, sorry if anybody's a real farmer, I wouldn't know anything about the value of water to you. This works even better, right? Because I can't have a computer, because a computer can't read your mind. So in that sense, even though you might have a plot that can produce 8 of value, I don't know it because maybe you want to go to Hawaii this year. You want to sell water. So in that sense, this works even better when the information is much more asymmetric. All I need to know is how many units of water are out there.
They can keep getting more water rights every year?
Good question. So let's say that we have Pat Mulroy over here. She's the head of Las Vegas Water and so on. She's retiring, which is going to be very interesting. I'm very happy about that. So she's a little woman with a big mouth. So Pat Mulroy is sitting here. She's got her $3 billion checkbook, right? And you all are just like shivering away with the farmers. Now, you shouldn't be shivering on the one hand because like, oh my God, I can make a lot of money off this woman. On the other hand, she has a $3 billion checkbook, but you have the endowment. If you bid $3 billion a unit, she can't take the money, or she can't bid higher because you just take the money out of one pocket and put it in the other, right? It costs you $0 to buy back your own water. If you want to sell for her, that'd be very fine. You can take her money, but you cannot be outbid when you have an endowment in this auction. If you have 2 units, you can bid $17 billion for 2 units. Now, if you bid $17 billion for the 3rd unit, you might need to come up with some cash, okay? But it's for the farmers out there, there's no way that she can outbid them. They can let her outbid them, right? So in that sense, that's a very, very important point. That's the no regrets aspect of this auction.
So if a landowner is just like, I just want to get rid of it, they can. The big companies can go ahead and purchase it.
Right.
Which would just be like what's happening anyhow.
Well, not anyhow. So what happened with Owens Valley when LA bought a bunch of water rights and put that water into the LA aqueduct and fueled the growth of Los Angeles is Los Angeles went down to this guy and said, would you like to sell? And the guy's like, yeah, sure. How much money you got, right? So LA, they did a divide and conquer. They took out the lowest guys first, then half the community was gone, and the people who held out, they did get a higher price. But in the end, they all got bought out, right? Because the community solidarity or the community, the returns to scale that comes from a larger community was shrinking, right? There weren't enough people to go to the library, weren't enough people to pay the fire department. As people empty out of the community, suddenly one guy is paying for the whole fire department. In fact, you are the fire department, right? So that's how the towns around Owens Valley died. And this auction mechanism would not have that happen because it's a simultaneous mechanism, right? It's not like you're going to get picked off one at a time. And this is what the farmers, ironically, were thinking, oh, you can try and pick me off because I'll get paid more than he will, right? This is actually, in my opinion, what's called a fair mechanism because no matter what side of the table you're on, you get what you want and you don't have a regret.
And it's short-term water rights versus long-term.
Yeah, I would short-term water versus long-term rights in a sense. Yeah, I would, and I know cities don't like that. I'm like talking to a city up in Montana. They're like, oh, we want to buy all that water. And if I was a farmer, I'd be like, no, I'm not going to sell it to you, but I'll rent it to you, right? Los Angeles is renting water from farmers in the Palo Verde Irrigation District. If you put PVID in my blog, you can read some very interesting posts about farmers following land, selling water to the city, making huge money, buying new dualies and everything, and the water comes back again because it's just a rental, right? So they take the money, LA gets the water, and then 2 years later they're back in business, growing alfalfa off the Colorado River. I think we're out of time too, but we're all good? Thank you very much.